The modern military ration is a sophisticated engineering feat of packaging and logistics. But to keep an organic meal viable in hostile environments, food scientists have developed a product that actively conflicts with human biology. This diagram shows the core mathematical problem of military feeding, known as the impossible triad. To fuel an army, quartermasters have to balance three competing demands: making the food last for years, packing it with dense calories, and maintaining acceptable taste and texture so stressed personnel will actually eat it. If you push a food's chemistry to survive half a decade in a warehouse, you physically destroy the other two requirements. The texture degrades, the flavors stall out, and the biological makeup of the meal is stripped bare. By analyzing the combat rations fielded by 10 different global powers, we can see the specific engineering trade-offs different militaries make to solve this equation. Looking at the biochemistry of these survival diets reveals the physical toll troops face when forced to rely exclusively on heavily preserved, engineered fuel. In a combat environment, a ration system is a calculated selection of which biological or logistical compromise is most tolerable. The United States military operates on a doctrine of extreme longevity. They mandate a baseline shelf life of up to 5 years, achieved through a process called retort thermostabilization. This involves sealing fully cooked food inside flexible foil plastic laminate pouches and subjecting it to high-pressure thermal sterilization. This process eliminates all microbial life. This represents a significant logistical victory, but the biological consequence is absolute. The food is completely devoid of the live bacteria or probiotics necessary to maintain human gut flora. This diagram shows the physical chain reaction triggered by subsisting on a sterile diet. The sudden absence of dietary fiber and live bacteria quickly alters the gut microbiome. This shift weakens the intestinal walls, leading to intestinal permeability, commonly known as leaky gut, where waste products leak into the bloodstream and trigger systemic inflammation. This graph shows the result of a 34-day Army field study tracking soldiers eating an exclusive MRE diet. The physical constipation and psychological aversion to the food, known as menu fatigue, caused troops to voluntarily stop eating. The MRE cohort experienced a steep drop in caloric intake, resulting in an average weight loss of 8.1 pounds. The French armed forces take a different approach. They cap their combat ration shelf life at a 2-year maximum, rejecting extreme sterilization in favor of heavy, oversized metal cans that preserve natural meat fibers and genuine sauce reductions. The meals are highly palatable, ensuring troops eagerly consume their calories, but this introduces significant logistical friction. If pushed past that tight 2-year window, the included sweet and savory biscuits are prone to rancidity. Norway operates in extreme sub-zero conditions, so they utilize lyophilization. This is a freeze-drying process that removes moisture via sublimation in a vacuum, turning ice directly into vapor. This strips out the heavy water weight and guarantees the food won't turn into a frozen, unchewable brick in the Arctic. A 5-year expiration date offers warehouse convenience, but it becomes a distinct liability if the human endocrine system actively refuses to swallow the calories, or if the soldier's immune system collapses from microbiome depletion. Beyond preservation, heating these rations is a mandatory step for digesting the heavy, saturated fats required for dense caloric energy. The United States, South Korea, and China utilize the flameless ration heater, or FRH, which requires only a minuscule splash of water to activate. The FRH relies on an exothermic reaction, the rapid oxidation of fine magnesium powders mixed with iron and salt, to generate intense heat. This affords a soldier absolute light and odor discipline, allowing them to cook a meal in total darkness without triggering enemy thermal optics. Conversely, European and Russian forces still rely on foldable, reusable metal stoves paired with solid hexamine fuel tablets. Burning solid hexamine generates a bright visual flame and noxious fumes, precluding its use in stealth operations. But in exchange for that stealth, the soldier gains substantial environmental utility. A physical flame allows them to boil biologically suspect water scavenged from the local environment and provides an emergency heat source for hypothermic extremities. How a military heats its food is a direct tactical declaration. Chemical heaters prioritize speed and absolute invisibility, while solid fuels prioritize fieldcraft and environmental adaptability. Even with balanced macronutrients and heat, a ration is useless if the soldier develops menu fatigue. Under extreme physical exertion and sleep deprivation, the human body slows gastric emptying and increases appetite-suppressing hormones. To combat this biological resistance, militaries in South Korea, China, and India integrate heavily spiced, highly acidic, or fermented side components directly into the primary meal pouch. South Korea includes stir-fried kimchi, and China provides pickled cabbage. These highly acidic ingredients provide a sharp textural crunch that physically cuts through the heavy, congealed fats and chemical preservatives of thermostabilized rice. These intense flavor profiles act as a biological tool. In extreme, high-altitude environments where physical trauma blunts hunger, these sharp spices force a salivary response, prompting the endocrine system to continue eating. The Russian Federation addresses this problem with raw caloric density. Their trench warfare doctrine relies on heavy cans of salted tushonka, a stewed beef, and dense liver pastes that use raw animal fat and salt to fuel thermogenesis and sustain core body heat in freezing conditions. Engineering a ration to match a soldier's cultural culinary heritage is a critical logistical mechanism to ensure warfighters actually swallow their fuel. By looking at the trade-offs of these global militaries, you can map these specific engineering doctrines directly onto your own emergency preparedness or backcountry systems. This diagram shows a decision framework for emergency rations. Before investing, you must identify your primary constraint. If you're an alpinist covering long distances, your constraint is weight. This leads directly to the Norwegian freeze-dried doctrine. Because backcountry travelers already carry stoves to process water, adopting freeze-dried meals provides an optimal weight-to-calorie ratio, bypassing the heavy water weight of retort pouches. If you are building an emergency bug-out bag that must sit in a freezing garage or a hot car trunk for years, you need the American or Asian doctrine, heavily sterilized retort pouches paired with flameless chemical heaters. But when relying on a sterile diet, you must actively pack civilian fiber and probiotic supplements. Without them, your gastrointestinal tract will fail under the stress of prolonged consumption. Finally, if you are a homesteader managing a stationary shelter-in-place scenario where carry weight is irrelevant, you follow the French and Italian doctrine. You intentionally sacrifice multi-decade shelf life to rotate high-quality, commercially canned foods. Giving your community recognizable textures and real sauces is the most effective way to prevent voluntary starvation and maintain psychological morale over long periods. When multinational forces gather for joint operations, a robust ration black market immediately emerges. The data from that barter economy is clear. Soldiers consistently trade massive quantities of their survival blocks for a single tin of French rabbit stew. When humans are cold and exhausted, they will trade logistical convenience for a taste of humanity.